one roof at the United Nations.
Our job here today is to begin to chart a course in which the investor community can and should be acting.
That course was to better understand and, more importantly, act on a relatively new concept for investors at the time, the financial implications of climate change, or climate risk, as these investors would coin the term.
The brainchild might have been that UN summit and bringing everybody together, and that, I think, was the spark that set it off.
What began with 10 investors managing $500 billion in assets would grow into a powerful network of more than 100 institutional investors, religious groups, and mainstream financial firms representing more than $12 trillion in assets under management.
There's no doubt about it, it has moved from a side issue to something that is in the core radar screen. And I think we've made enormous progress over these 10 years.
Much of that progress has been directed at changing the way companies think about the link between climate change and shareholder value. One of the network's first initiatives was to increase climate-related corporate disclosures.
A key component with trying to address issues of climate risk is getting better public disclosure and transparency.
INCR set its sights on the Securities and Exchange Commission, launching a multi-year campaign to get the federal agency to provide better oversight on corporate disclosure of climate risk.
The Securities and Exchange Commission needed to recognize that climate change is a material risk and that those material risks need to be disclosed.
But reporting was just the first step. INCR members also challenged companies to not only report their performance, but to improve their business practices on climate and other sustainability-related issues.
We just want them to be the best possible corporate citizens, and we've really expanded our engagement with companies.
As the network expanded, attention to these new risks also expanded.
Before there were maybe a handful of shareholder resolutions on environmental issues. Now every year there were hundreds.
Through the use of engagement efforts like shareholder resolutions, investors have brokered hundreds of commitments with companies they own on everything from reducing greenhouse gas emissions to improving energy efficiency and increasing renewable energy throughout a company's operations.
I think history suggests that when investors come together around these sustainability practices, they're quite capable of having a long-term positive impact on company behavior.
But INCR members aren't just focused on corporations. They've become increasingly vocal on the role that state, national, and international policies can play on protecting investments from the risks of climate change. And they've had incredible success over the years, helping to improve fuel standards for America's cars and trucks, resulting in the largest greenhouse gas emissions reduction in U.S. history. They've catalyzed the renewable energy sector by helping secure support for the production tax credit for wind, as well as supporting state renewable portfolio standards. And they've called on world governments to combat climate change through strong international agreements.
It really is all about the fact that there's such a thing as investor power. Money talks.
INCR has been influential on a global scale as well. Along with the launch of INCR in the US, similar networks have begun in Europe, Australia, New Zealand, and Asia. In 2012, these networks came together to form the Global Investor Coalition on Climate Change, connecting investors worldwide.
We really do learn by being part of a broader network of investors. There's a lot we can learn from each other.
Over the last 10 years, INCR members have changed the course of history, coining a new financial term, climate risk, and advocating for bold steps and actions to create an economic system that is in balance with the environment, not at odds with it. But they're only getting started, and if the next 10 years of this movement prove as successful as the first, INCR will bring us that much closer to achieving a sustainable economy that helps protect our finances and our futures for the long term.
Really, in the broadest sense, the success of INCR has been changing the conversation. There's no doubt about it.
Congratulations, INCR, on 10 years of mobilizing investor action on climate change. And here's to the next 10 years of moving capital markets toward a more sustainable path.